All right, what's this?
What do you mean?
What are we doing?
What do you mean, bro? It's Tuesday, we're working. That's the beautiful thing about having one of these. You can work all day from anywhere. Bruno, this is an office. Respect the office space.
So this is a gentleman talk on a yacht. I actually got you 47 questions today.
47. I'm not gonna answer them all.
Yeah, you probably answer like 10, but that's fine.
Probably.
Anyway, ready to begin?
Let's start.
What do you mean when you say spiritual gumbo?
So spiritual gumbo to me, the reason I believe we have souls is because you're gonna meet certain people in your life, and those people are gonna have certain attributes that you want and you're gonna wanna replicate. But the reason we have souls is because we choose what parts and how much of those parts we wanna take from the people around us to put together a formula, a gumbo of who we become. And so influences from other people are inevitable. What you choose to allow into you is the part that makes it your own. I always say guard the gates of your mind, for example. That's a really, really important thing to do if you don't want to take a piece of someone else that you don't necessarily want to be like and put that into the formula that makes you who you are. You only want to take the parts and pieces of people that you want to replicate and be like and have certain values or traits or mindsets and put that into your formula, because those are the things that are going to create the right formula for you to get to the place where you want to get in your life. So that is my theory on the subject.
Awesome. And for context, what's a gumbo?
Gumbo is a southern dish where they take sausage, onions, bell peppers, chicken, and they put it all together in a roux. It comes out into a very, very delicious southern dish called a gumbo that's normally poured over rice.
What's one sentence you'd like to share with a young man who's on the path to become successful?
One sentence?
One sentence.
There's nothing in this world you can't achieve.
All right, now beyond the one sentence, you want to elaborate on that?
You asked me for one sentence, bro. You said one sentence.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and how has it impacted your life?
I don't know if it was advice, but I can tell you there was one time in the steel company where I thought I was gonna go bankrupt, and I went to a mentor of mine and I pulled him aside at an event and I said, hey Mike, I'm owed this much money. I have this much in payroll this week. I don't think I'm gonna get paid for a month. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to go bankrupt. And he looked at me and laughed in my face. He said, Justin, if you don't think you're gonna go bankrupt every 4 years, you're really not doing shit anyway. He smiled at me, hit me on the shoulder, and walked away. It just made me feel better, man. So it really wasn't advice more than it was, hey, you're gonna be all right. I've been where you've been. It's not as dark as you think it is, particularly when you get on the other side. So it was a very good message and I needed it at that time. Not advice, but impactful.
What's the best path one can take to connect with you or any other people at your level?
There's two answers. There's one is to create such a stir in the world that nobody can not know who you are. That's one. The second way is the way that I did it my entire career and still do it, is I join groups, I pay to go to events, I show up at things that those types of people are gonna be at, and I make sure I get in front of them. It's funny, I have a conversation with my ops manager about a year ago. She said, Justin, why are you paying to go to this event? Haven't you heard all these things 5, 6, 20 fucking times by now? I said, Renee, you don't understand. I'm not paying for what they're teaching at the event. I'm paying to be in the room with the people that can afford to be in that room. Oftentimes joining those groups and finding people to go to war with is the quickest way to stir the world up. So that's what's worked for me in my life. I've genuinely done it my entire career.
What do you think is the most valuable skill that a person can learn?
How to navigate through the hand they're dealt. Everybody gets dealt a hand, and oftentimes that hand comes with strengths and weaknesses. And many people like to harp on their weaknesses instead of looking at the 2 pocket kings they got dealt and playing out the rest of the hand, building their strengths and building around their weaknesses. And what I mean by that is you have a goal and you believe you have weaknesses that won't allow you to get to the goal, to build that bridge to get to the goal, then you're focusing on the wrong thing. You just have to accept what those weaknesses are and go plug in parts that build that bridge all the way to the goal you're trying to get to. A lot of times people look at life as if they have to have 5 aces dealt to them right off the rip. And that's just not true, and that's never gonna happen. The most successful people in the world have weaknesses and parts of the hand they were dealt that don't lend themselves to success. They've simply been able to look at themselves in the mirror, recognize what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, and build around it in order to get to the goals that they want. There's nothing you can't achieve in this world, and it's very likely you will not do it on your own. Nobody achieves anything great by themselves. So understanding yourself first so you build around the things that you're great at and cover your deficiencies is gonna be the fastest and most solid way to ever achieve your goals. And I think a lot of people just have a really hard time accepting what those strengths are, what those weaknesses are, refusing to accept them and then build around them. That's one thing I like to keep in check on myself all the time, is just accepting the things that I know I'm good at and accepting the things that I know I'm not good at and building around it from there.
What are the things to take into consideration when starting a new business?
I had a call with a guy on my neck the other day. He was about to start a business with a guy that he was selling with. I started to ask him questions about the guy, and what I was trying to extract out of him was, is this guy exactly like you? Or is he a lot like you? And the answer was yes. And I immediately told him not to start the business with that guy. And the reason I told him to do that is because he doesn't need another him. He needs to evaluate his skill sets, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and then find somebody else that can fill in those gaps. You don't need another you in business. You need somebody who has the skills and the patience and the energy to do the things that you will not do. He needs somebody organized, somebody that is going to help process all the sales that he makes, not somebody that is exactly like him, that is going to have the same tendencies as him, that is not going to sit still in the office and do the things that must be done. He needs somebody different than him. He's going to go out, sell a bunch of work, but at the same time, somebody has to be there to process it and make sure that the sales that are made actually have fulfillment to them. And having two hunters is not going to do that. It's just going to create a big mess. The best thing you can do is understand yourself and build around that. And that's regardless of whether you're the technician, the manager, or the entrepreneur. It doesn't matter where you land on the org board. You still own the business. You can work in it where you're most graceful to work in it, because your number one job as an owner in a company is to set people up to be graceful, and that's starting with you.
For the young men that were pressured into college but want to turn that around, what's one piece of advice you'd share? They don't want to be in college anymore. They want to do something else with their lives, but they're still being pressured.
Then I say do something else, bro. Even if you're taking 18 hours of college, you have time to do stuff. So let's not act like you don't. I would have had time, and I was playing sports. You know, definitely in the off season, you can build a business. Stay in college, build a business. Who cares? A lot of people do that and then drop out when you start making a bunch of money. You'll see quickly that unless you're in some specialty field, you're not gonna do the job that you went to college for anyway. Yeah, do I think college is not a good idea? Yeah, for most people, I don't think college is a good idea. But at the same time, you don't have to drop out. You don't have to disappoint your family. Just start a business on the side and then take that check and be like, hey, dad, check this out. Peace, I'm out. You'll be like, I believed in you all along, son. Bro, in the time it would take you to get from being a freshman to a sophomore, you can have a business built. By the time you're a junior, you can be like, okay, well, do I want to do this or not? And by the way, I have a construction company with a degree in construction management. And I'm gonna say that again. I don't use my degree. Like, what are you gonna do?
What do you think of long distance relationships? Would you recommend them, and what advice would you give to someone that is on it?
I don't know that it's a very good idea to do it for a long duration of time. Absence does make the heart grow fonder. One thing I notice about the men that have worked for me, because we travel so much, you travel a lot in construction, they have these long relationships. And the reason I believe that works is because you get an opportunity to miss someone and then fall in love again. So if I'm gone for 2 weeks and I come back, it's like a honeymoon. You can't wait to see one another. There's a text building up. I'm getting on the plane, blah, blah, blah. I'm wearing this when you get home. You better wear this when I get home. It creates that magic that allows you to be able to fall in love with one another again, miss each other, talk about the things you miss, talk about how things were going. And particularly for a man, it's like if you're out on your mission and you're trying to make money and build things, you get to bring things back to your family. I think it's a really, really good way to create longevity. And I also think it's a really good way to keep a fire burning. It's human nature to take things for granted when they're around all the time. I think doing it too long and doing it permanently is not a real thing, but being away for a little while, going on your mission, coming back, having something to be excited to tell your partner about, especially if it's for that person, like your wife or your kids or your family, I think it's a really, really awesome thing that can really make a relationship not only last, but keep it on fire. So I don't really have a problem with it unless it's done the wrong way.
What's the secret behind young people earning substantial incomes online these days?
It's the business model. I say it all the time. If I would have had some of the business models that the guys in the real world have, I might be worth 10x more money. I just had to go the brick and mortar path because that was what was available to us at the time. Real estate and construction was the only thing I knew. Now these kids can make doctor money sitting on a boat in Miami or in the sand in Dubai on a laptop. That gives them a whole new set of opportunities that come with a whole new set of problems, but most importantly, I think it comes with a whole new set of responsibilities. They're outside of the framework of the structure that a lot of people are so used to by checking into a job every day. So as long as you can be responsible with that power and build a business inside a business model that's going to be substantially more explosive than any brick and mortar, then so be it. Just understand that the business model is often the thing that separates the entrepreneur. You can take the same entrepreneur and put them in business one and then put them in business two. One guy is under a bridge, the next guy is Steve Jobs. So the business model itself is going to be a very powerful thing, especially when you're young and you're putting all of that youthful energy into business. You put it in the right business and it has the right levers, then you can do some really incredible things.